Okay, balance training. How do we do it? What is balance? I'm going to get into some of that today, but I wanted to start off with a story about the Bosu ball. In my thumbnail, I have a picture of me standing on one leg on the Bosu ball, and that's how David Weck, the inventor of the Bosu ball, that's how he was able to market when he would go around to different conferences and clinics and things, and he wanted to sell this product, this half dome ball. He would issue a challenge. He would say, I've got $100 in my pocket, which he didn't have at the time. And I actually saw David Weck tell this story up close and personal. He came to speak at San Diego State when I was there. And so I was in a very small classroom. It was really, really cool experience. Genius guy, inventor of tons of products now that I own. But the Bosu ball, he would go around and he said, I've got $100 in my pocket, which he didn't have. And he would say, if anyone here can stand on this ball on one foot with their eyes closed for 10 seconds, I'll give you $100. And everywhere he went, no one could do it. Why? Well, they couldn't do it because they didn't practice balancing on a ball like this. It's a new product. And that sold people because nobody could do it. Even people that were experienced in balance training and had a crazy balance and all these things, but it was a new skill. And this brings me into what balance training is and isn't, and what balance is overall. So what is balance? The definition of balance is maintaining your center of mass over your base of support. So as I'm standing here, my center of mass is somewhere in my center, right? And my base of support is my feet. So I want to maintain my center of mass over my base of support. If I start standing on one leg, okay, my base of support now changes and I have to maintain that center of mass over a different base of support. So that's all balance is just maintaining that. And when we talk about training balance, people then start to do all sorts of complicated different things. Well, what is balance? Again, it's just maintaining that center of mass over your base of support. But what maintains your balance? So this is the thing that we talk about when we talk about training. If you're training a specific skill, like standing on a Bosu ball, that's different than training overall balance that can translate into any different situation. What we want to do when we're training the muscles. The muscles that are involved in balance are going to be what? If it's standing on one leg, it's your foot, okay? It's your leg, your lower leg, all the way up into your hip, your obliques, your abs, your lower back. It's basically the whole body, even sometimes your arms, to move your arms around. So it's your whole body you want to train. When we think about training specifically for balance, a lot of that is working on the foot. That's what the Bosu ball is really designed to do. It's to train your feet a little bit more. But how can you do that if you don't have a Bosu ball? How can you train balance without that? Well, people do these exercises like they're standing on one leg. They do different exercises on one leg. They're doing a bicep curl standing on one leg. Well, that might help you train those foot muscles, okay? But what would be for me, again, I want to make things as safe and as effective as possible. What do I do if I want to train balance? I don't do any balance training, because balance is a skill. Most people don't want help balancing on one leg because they don't do that. They don't do that in their everyday. They want to be help balancing as they're walking. Well, the skill of walking is different than the skill of balancing on one leg. Doing one-legged stuff is not going to help you in your skill of walking. They don't translate. But what does translate is the strength of your foot, the strength of your leg, all those muscles that are involved in holding your center of mass over your base of support, which is balance. So how would you train your foot? Well, just a calf raise, just a simple calf raise and a tibialis raise. So I'm flexing the foot and I'm extending the foot. I'm doing the two motions that work on the foot, but I have to take those muscles to fatigue. I have to go to failure. If I don't do that, if I don't take those muscles to failure, then I'm going to be missing out on some of those muscle fibers in that area, which is going to help me in my quest for balance. I remember doing tons and tons of balance work, working on the Bosu ball, doing single leg work, doing all these different things, and I had good balance. I've always had good balance, but I then stopped doing any of that. Okay, I stopped doing that, and I thought my balance was going to go down. What I started to do was training like I train now, okay? So I stopped doing all that balance work and I was like, oh man, I bet you my balance is not gonna be that good. And then one day I'm standing there and I had to do something on one leg. I was showing someone like a stretch and I just did like playfully doing something. I was like, man, I'm rock solid as I was standing. I go, what is this? Well, it's because I train those muscles in my leg, in my foot, I train the whole body. You want to train the whole body in your exercise program. If you don't train your whole body, again, you're missing out on some muscles that can help you in your quest for balance. If it's your foot, you're probably not training your legs hard enough, or your calves, or you're missing something in your program that's not helping you, okay? If it's that leg component. If you're not training, okay, the obliques, if you're not getting that deep muscular failure, you're probably not grabbing all of the muscle fibers available. So when you do your exercises, you're not really training the whole body. You might think you are, but you're not. And when you train to failure, you tend to start pulling in muscles that will help you, that you don't have to necessarily do a specific muscle. So that's why a lot of high intensity training is basic. It's push, horizontal, pull, horizontal, push, overhead, pull, down, okay? That's mainly the basic stuff for your upper body because you're gonna get most of it. You don't need to do reverse fly and all these different exercises to get all these extra muscles, because when you go to failure, you go to really deep muscular fatigue, you're gonna start pulling in every muscle that you can to help you do that movement. So for me, I was surprised when I found that, hey, my balance is just as good, if not better than it was when I was doing all this balance exercise, because I was really taking those muscles to fatigue. If I do work on a Bosu ball, it's damn near impossible to get to failure or fatigue because it's dangerous. I'll fall off the ball. That's how I go to failure on a Bosu ball. That's dangerous. I don't want to do that. I don't do that with my clients. Do I still use a Bosu ball? Yes. But for specific things or targeting waking up muscles, because someone can't really get into the arches of their feet because their arches are collapsed. I might put them on the Bosu ball first, right? Then we'll do a calf raise, or we do a specific exercise on there to get into certain muscle groups or prime certain muscles. So then we go into the failure stuff. We're more active in a certain area, if that makes any sense. So that's where I use it, but I don't really use it. And I don't recommend using it, especially if you want to work on balance. Like I said, you want to train those muscles to fatigue so that if I'm, give you an example. If I'm working on one foot, okay, and I'm just working on balance, and then I balance and I fail, I fall over. Is that really failing at muscular fatigue for those muscles in your foot? Well, you're still standing. So it's, if I can stand on one leg, all right, and then I fall over, but then I can go right back to it again. That's not like doing a bicep curl with 100 pounds. I do my 12 reps or I do 8 reps or whatever it is, and I try to do another repetition. I can't do it. I fail. I set the weight down, okay? I rest. I can only do a few more repetitions at that weight, and it gets to the point where, again, it's really, really challenging. Most of the time, when we're doing this stuff standing on one foot, all right, we do it for a certain amount of time. We fail because we fall, right? You're gonna end up falling at some point, or you're gonna end up not being able to complete whatever task that is at some point, but then you can go right back to it. It doesn't really take you to that deep level of fatigue. So what I would say is, instead of thinking about, I need to work on balance exercises to get into better balance, remember that balance is a skill of maintaining your base of support, your center of mass of your base of support. That can change in so many different activities. On a Bosu ball, off a Bosu ball, with your eyes closed, not eyes closed, all right? On your toes, on your heel, there's so many different variables that we can do. Twisting as you do it, okay? Pressing over your head as you do it. There's all these different exercises and forms that you could challenge your balance in. But what the main task is we want to train the muscles that are involved in maintaining your center of mass over your base of support. And really, for a lot of people, that's gonna be the foot all the way up to the hips, the abs, obliques, lower back. You can then, again, like I said, even using my arms and my shoulders to balance can help. So you just wanna train your whole body, and if you train it effectively, you're gonna have good balance. Now, if your balance is waning because of inner ear problems, because of vision problems, those things are different. So doing all the balance training in the world isn't gonna fix the problems that you have with inner ear or your vision. So those things need to be practiced separately. If I wanna get better balance for walking, It's a skill of walking that I have to practice. It's not balancing on one leg and reaching over my head with a dumbbell. It doesn't make any sense when you think about it physiologically and the way that our motor learning systems in our body work. You have to, again, if you're going to train if you're going to train the muscles, if you're going to do an exercise to train muscles, take those legs, the calves, the tibs, the quads, the hamstrings, so all those muscles, the hips, the glutes, everything like that, you want to train to fatigue, to muscular failure, so that you can exhaust all those fibers and then they can build strength. Whereas if I do an exercise and it works those muscles, I'm not saying that balance training doesn't do that, but you work those muscles, but yet you don't take them to fatigue and you don't get the maximum stimulus, you're just practicing another skill. Which, hey, it might be great in your arsenal of tools to be able to balance on one leg and press something overhead. I've never had to use that in my everyday life. So if that's what you do in your everyday life, then fine, by all means, go for it. But I've never had to do that. I've had to walk, I've had to run, I've had to pick something up and turn, okay? So if you wanna do those things and practice those skills, by all means, do that and incorporate that into your training. But if it's something that doesn't mimic something, even if it mimics something closely in everyday life, until you actually do that skill, it's not going to translate over to that other skill. Skills are very specific. And again, just like the example that I get at the very beginning, when David Weck went around and said, I'll give you $100 if you can stand on this Bosu ball with one foot with your eyes closed for 10 seconds, and no one can do that. Tons of people who train balance, they have the best balance training on the planet, some of the most athletic people on the planet, pro athletes, no one could do it because it was a new skill. And you just got better at doing that skill, and that skill doesn't transfer over into anything else. If your weak link was getting trained, there's a better way to train that weak link by just going to momentary muscular failure. You can do that by doing leg presses, by doing calf raises, by doing tib raises. You can do that in a safer environment where there's no risk of falling on top of Bosu. There's no risk of doing any of that. I want to train it safely. I want to get to those muscles to a point of failure, of fatigue, and that's how we do it. We do it by training hard, by training safe, so that, again, we can get those results. That's what we do. We train hard, we train it to failure, and that's it for today.